Hey guys, so in this video I just wanted to talk about how kind of how my business changed because of a podcast that I started listening to that was created by this ex-Navy SEAL guy. So the podcast is called Jocko Podcast, and I don't even remember how I stumbled upon it or how I started listening to this podcast, but it's awesome. You should totally check it out. And one of the things that kind of came across there was related to how when I first started my business. I've only told the story a few times as far as how things went down when it was like I started with the online marketing. Like I knew I wanted to be some type of entrepreneur, and it was like, what type of business should I get into? And then I was like, well, I mean, as far as technology, that's kind of my thing. And, I was like, okay, internet marketing makes sense. So that's the one that I kind of went for. And then, it was completely foreign to me. I knew nothing about selling or conversions, copywriting, anything like that, any just basic business stuff. So of course, my first few endeavors didn't work out. It was, just total failure. And it was like two or three things that I tried that were just dumb, hokey things. And I look back on it, it was just like total get rich quick stuff and just dumb things, right? And surprisingly, they didn't work out. So, so then it was like, I laugh now because the mindset is so ridiculous that I had back then. But it was like, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. I'm going to kind of throw in the towel, right? And then right around that time was my wife was changing jobs, was going to the doctor to get, routine checkups. And then they found some problems. And then what it ultimately wound up was that they did some x-rays and found out that she had like a tumor on her left lung. And then they gave us some options as far as what we could do. So option one was like do nothing. Option two was like surgery. And option three was like radiation therapy. So we went with the surgery. She had part of her lung removed and the tumor removed. And knock on wood, everything's been good ever since then. But it was like, that right around the time she got that diagnosis, I was like thinking of packing in the towel and like giving up on my whole online business dreams because like my first three endeavors didn't work out, so I felt a bit silly. And I, kind of went back and was working on things. But even still, if something didn't work out, there would be times when I would kind of, maybe feel a little bit sorry for myself. It's just natural if, you're an entrepreneur and, some things are going to work and some things aren't. And if you can't handle the things that don't, then you're not really going to cut it as an entrepreneur. But I don't really feel sorry for myself much anymore because of this ex-Navy SEALs podcast, this Jocko podcast. Because one of the episodes he talked about this guy, it was in Korea, and he had been captured and he had been injured and he had been captured and he had been put into like a prison camp. And his injuries, like he couldn't really walk, right? So he had to kind of like crawl around, drag himself around. And the bathroom that they had out back of the hospital where he was at was just like a big long trench. It was just filled with human feces, liquid poop. And in order to go to the bathroom, he had to go to the edge of the trench, pull his pants down, and then kind of like, do his business near the edge. So he was doing that, and the edge collapsed. And he fell into the trench. So his legs weren't really working, and he was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to drown in a trench filled with liquid poop. Fortunately, because the way that they did it during the Korean War, they had the white American soldiers separated from the black American soldiers. And some black American soldiers came under the wire from where they were, came over, pulled him out of the trench, and basically saved his life. So I urge you to check out the podcast because I can't remember which episode it was, but it was about the Korean War, and like that one was amazing. But when you listen to something as powerful as that, the stories that are inside some of those books that he covers on the podcast, little things it'll really change your perspective, and you definitely won't feel sorry for yourself. If something bad happens, you can always think like, well, at least I'm not drowning in a trench filled with liquid poop.